Hello there, I'm Gorgh from Agenda Group, and today I wish to present to you my short seminar about diversity in doing productions for old platforms. What can you expect from this seminar? My history of being involved in retro scene, short introduction of hardware and diversity, the joy of using real machines. Why do people find it cool to create stuff on many platforms? Short description of couple of systems, and also as a bonus, a small advices from Agenda Group how to create a good intro. Not mine advices, but my friends. My history with computers began in the late 80s when I was 5-6 years old. I had contact with 8-bit computers in my school, where Elvro Jr. ZX Spectrum clones were hooked up to a local network, and the teacher could load programs with his main computer, and then all the computers had programs being loaded into the memory. We used to learn how to program in Logo language. We also played Spectrum games like Night Lore and other Spectrum games, which were awesome for that time, and I was really amazed by it. In '88 I got my first computer, Atari 65XE, with dataset as a storage device, and many of my friends at that time had Atari computers, so I had source of software to play with. Also, I had contact with people with Commodore 64 computers. My friends got it, and this was amazing experience to see such variety of graphics and music. It was mind-blowing, really. This was late 80s in the Poland, which was behind the Iron Curtain, and not much of the computers were available to us. Also, we had contact with computers thanks to magazines like Bytek, Tajemnice Atari, Secrets of Atari, and Top Secret, which were mainly focused on programming, games, and software, also hardware, and many people used to read that magazines, older and younger, and everyone was amazed by the computerization, the fact that computers are beginning to influence so many areas of our lives. In the modern times, when I came back to programming in the about 2007 or 2008, when I came back to programming, I found many information and access to different materials at YouTube. I saw that many people creating awesome stuff for old computers. Also, forums were much more influential than today. There were many active forums out there, and also web pages like Atari Online or Atari Age were source of information. Later on, I also encountered Poet site, which is, I believe, commonly known by you, and after 15 years break, I started to code in assembly language once again. First contact with demo scene, massive community supporting retro machines, lots of awesome demos and intros out there. I was really impressed by checking the demos in productions, and it was really inspiring, especially when the people were involved in coding on different platforms. I was really impressed by the works of coders such as Shadow, Goblinish, Bright Light, Mermaid, and other coders that were creating stuff for many platforms. Also, the games had a big impact on me. I was running a web page with retro gaming news for 12 years, and during that time I was browsing internet in search of new games, and I had been in touch with many web pages and YouTube channels that were showing new stuff, and I was really amazed not by the gameplay itself but the imagination of the creators of those games. I'm not a big gamer, but I love to see how people can express themselves using limited machines. Also, one game made me buy MSX computers alone, one game alone. It was Invasion of the Zombie Monsters, released for 3 platforms, and it looks almost the same on all platforms. This game was amazing for me. Finally, I guess most of you or some of you are collecting retro machines. Nothing compares to experience of using real machines instead of using emulators. I believe I know many people who collect retro machines, and I also find it very amusing and magical that I can use 40 years old machine with new software. By today, I have collected over a dozen of systems which are all hooked up to TV displays and ready to be used. The more the merrier. Why I want to share my interest in coding on various platforms? There are a couple reasons for it. Discovering new systems is an opportunity to train your mind by learning new stuff. Using limitations of a given platform is a creative way of expressing yourself, and each system is different, just like different people. You can imagine that you know many people and each one of you has different characteristics, and you like different people for different reasons, and the same is with all systems, that each one of them is unique and has different traits. And finally, it's something magical to run your code on very old machines. Now I wish to skip to the overview of some systems I use. I decided to present some machines with their characteristics in order to encourage you to try to create some stuff on it. First of all, Atari XL XE. The computer came out in '79. It was one of the first home computers. Initially, it had 8 or 16 kilobytes of RAM, but in following years the RAM was increased to 48 and 64, which ultimately became the standard for Atari computers. It has 6502 CPU running at almost 2 MHz. It has also very nice antique graphic processor, which was very ahead of its time when it came out in '79, because it had very advanced functionalities. The downsides of Atari computers is that the antique is stealing up to 30% of CPU cycles, and there is no attribute color RAM. The CPU architecture of Atari is mainly known for its simplicity and elegant code being generated. It has fast zero-page addressing, which means that first 256 bytes in RAM have special use, and the opcodes that use those areas are smaller and faster. There are many addressing modes in this processor, and it's basically, generally speaking, very fast, because most of the operations are done in 2 to 5 cycles, some of them 7 cycles, which is really good, impressive numbers. Now a little bit about antique graphic processor. It has special code which is called display list, which allows to mix 15 graphic modes in one frame. Each line can have different graphic mode. As you can see on the screen, there is possibility to switch between 16 colors graphic combined with regular low-res graphic. Also, this computer has 256 colors. Usually there's only half of them being used, but there are modes where you can use all of them. And there is also flexible screen RAM. You can set up screen RAM anywhere, almost anywhere, and each line can have different screen RAM. Another computer I wish to talk about is ZX Spectrum. I first encountered this computer during forever parties in Slovakia, which are held since 25 years already, and I was really amazed by the quality of productions and variety of productions. Those computers were very popular in Eastern Europe. This is fairly basic computer in terms of architecture. It has 15 colors and colorful high-res mode. There's only one graphics mode, no text mode whatsoever, which means that there's only fixed location of the screen. You have almost 7 kilobytes of RAM for screen data, and after that attribute color RAM. It has some of the models have very good AI music chip, and it also uses fast Z80 processor. Speaking about the processor, there are many 16-bit registers, as you can see here, and moreover there are also shadow registers which are being invoked by EXX instruction, as you can see in the example, which switches between shadow and regular registers. Another advantage of this processor is movable stack, which can be used for copying data or filling data with blocks of memory. And there are really many instructions, many variety of instructions. Speaking about the graphics, there is just one resolution and one graphic mode, and you can choose 2 colors out of 15 in 8 by 8 pixel range, which means that the colors are limited, but you can use speed code for changing attributes on the fly. As you can see on the image here, this is an example of ScoopX demo, where you have smooth vertical scrolling and attributes of lines of bytes are being changed on the fly. The downside, I believe, of the ZX Spectrum is non-linear screen RAM, which means that each line has different starting address line of the screen. There are also two switchable screens in extended memory mode. And now I wish to tell something more about Atari VCS, which is, in my opinion, very limited platform, but yet very challenging. It came out in '77 as one of the first consoles on the market. It has 6507 CPU, which is variation on 6502, 2 channels of music, which is also very hard to get right notes with this chip. Also 128 bytes of RAM, 2 sprites, 2 missiles and 1 ball, and playfield consisted of 3 bytes of screen RAM. Speaking about the graphics, no screen RAM there is whatsoever. Everything is drawn on the fly, which means that the coder needs to populate 3 bytes of screen RAM constantly in order to achieve very blocky graphics. The same goes with the sprites. There are only single bytes for sprite graphics, and in order to position sprite horizontally, one has to write to specific registers during the drawing of the screen. So this means that if you want to place the sprite in the middle of the screen, you have to write the specific register when the screen is being drawn in the middle, which is very challenging. Also, you have 76 cycles to use each scanline, which is crazy because this is very limited number, and the timing is very essential. Here you can see a demo, a screen from the demo by KK, which uses playfield and sprites in order to display X-rotator effect, which is crazy complicated because each position of each 2 sprites at the edges of the shapes are being updated each line, which is crazy. Another computer I wish to talk about that I recently purchased and starting to learning about it is VIC-20. I really like this computer because it's very simple, yet you can do many interesting stuff on it. It came out in 81. It has 5.5 kilobyte of RAM, 1 MHz CPU. It's very simple hardware. You have only character graphics, redefinable, yet you can display more complex graphics by changing the characters, which are 256 of them. The RAM can be expanded, as you can see, to these numbers on the screen, and it has, or used to have, a very prolific community. Still many people create software for it, which is great in my opinion. It has 22 by 23 characters on screen, which makes it very unusual in terms of resolution. Very cozy and nice 16 colors. In my opinion, nicer even than Commodore colors. Many ways to exceed graphic limitations, such as stable rasters, such as graphic on the borders, and also people like PWP were able to play samples during loading procedures, loading from the disks. Another computer that I used to code on is Dragon 32 or Coco 2, which are very similar machines, but yet quite obscure. They've got a lot of possibilities, but also quite many limitations. They have 6809 CPU running almost 1 MHz, many graphic modes, including semi-graphics, and also it's possible to double the speed of the CPU during VBlank, because running double speed CPU during drawing of the screen results in corrupting graphics. The downsides of those computers is that there are no timers, no interrupt, and there is only 1 bit sound only. So you can use timers, so you have to hard code the sound procedures in your code, which is very problematic sometimes. The cool thing about those computers is that they have awesome CPU, which has 16-bit indexed addressing by X and Y indices. Also 16-bit accumulator. A consisted of 8-bit accumulator A and B, hardware multiplications, and also two stacks useful for erasing copying memory. The graphic modes are, as you can see on the screen on the slide right now. You can do double buffering, and also in monochrome mode you can use only 16 bytes of RAM memory per scanline, which is very sufficient and interesting mode. The screenshot you see now is part of my effect of 3D rotating cube, which is running in 2 or 3 frames per second. I hope to release it soon. Now I wish to skip to the PC-DOS platform, which is something new that I discovered for myself, and this platform uses 86 and 87 processors, which I will talk about a bit later. One can use 256 colors in high-res mode. There is redefinable color palette. Actually, there are no speed limitations because using FreeDOS you can use it, run the program on modern computers there as well. On Windows there is limitation and you have to use emulators to run PC-DOS executables, and FPU instructions make life really easier. Speaking of FPU, you can use sin, cosine, atom, square root, multiplication, division, and so on. There are many interesting instructions you can use. The downside of FPU is that you have only 8 registers, so you have to be really flexible and think about the limitations of FPU when coding. There are many general purpose 16 and 32-bit registers, and the DOS intros are good for porting shaders, so you can prototype stuff in shader toy and then convert it to assembly language. And one downside of the DOS programming is that when using labels, as you can see on the examples in the slide, when using labels you extend the number of bytes of the FPU instructions by 1, because you are using absolute memory location. The faster and shorter method is using indexing by one of the registers, as you can see here by BP, but it makes the code less convenient to read and code. It obfuscates the code a little, so it's one of the very few downsides of PC-DOS coding, but I guess one can overcome it. At the end, I wish to talk a little bit about Texas Instruments calculator, which is the most exotic machine in my collection. It's programmable calculator, which means you can run your own programs. It has Z80 CPU running 6 MHz, monochrome LCD screen by given resolution, and 32 kilobytes of RAM, which is not all usable by the coder, and it has no sound. This calculator has no screen RAM. Every byte is set with the out instruction. Its Z80 processor is a channel where you can put bytes to some other chip of the computer, of our machine. You can send data byte by byte, and in case of Texas Instruments calculator, there has to be pause between pixel writes. So you have to wait a little bit between sending another byte to screen memory. The regular RAM has to be allocated with system calls, but otherwise the calculator is very fast. So at the end, as a bonus part, I wish to share some Sizecoding advices I learned from my crewmates in Agenda group. I'm not that advanced coder myself. I consider myself rather mediocre coder, but my crewmates that are more advanced in coding sometimes share some knowledge, which is very valuable for me. First of all, one has to show something new or old effect with a twist. It's important when you are creating some intro, it's important to create something new, something that people haven't seen before. Next, let it unfold, develop in time. Don't reveal all you want to show. This means that the effect has to be shown gradually in order to impress the audience. Remember that you can influence only two senses, vision and hearing, so if it's possible, always use sound. And also tell a story, invent some context of the production. Yes, I hope I haven't bored you. Sorry for not being too fluent with speaking. That's something new for me. I hope you understand it. And I hope we will have a great time during this Lovebyte party. Thank you and goodbye.